Welcome to the class 10 of the Python course. In this class, we'll be studying functions. So let's get started. Functions, which are named blocks of code that are designed to do one specific job. When you want to perform a particular task that you have defined in a function, you call the name of the function responsible for it. So what the function does that it makes our code more efficient, more maintainable, more reusable, and more extensible. Let me show you in these examples. So first of all, how to define a function. This is how you define a function. Let's go into VS Code screen and see. So you will type define. This is the built-in function. In order to make a function, you need to use this define function. Define and greet underscore user. Try to keep the name of your function in lowercase and use underscores. Then is open parenthesis and then the semicolon. So this is how you have created a function. And now let's enter into the body of the function. And first of all, we are going to write here what this function does. This function displays a simple greeting. Now whoever reads this function will get to know that this function displays a simple greeting. Now print hello user, and now we are going to call this function. How we are going to do this? We're simply going to type the name of the function, greet user and parentheses. And now if I run it, it's saying hello user. So this is how it has made our code more efficient and more reusable. Now I can call this multiple times. I can use it as many times as I want. It will give us the same results. As you can see, hello user, hello user, hello user, hello user. So you're calling it the multiple times. Let's move on to the second concept after defining a function, that how to pass information to a function. Passing information to function. Program 2. Now for this, we're going to create a function, define read underscore user, and then we are going to pass an argument for making it more extensible. Username, you can name this whatever you want. You can name it access, username, whatever you like. Then we are going to write again what this function does. This function displays a simple greeting, and then we are going to print this. Print hello plus user name dot title plus inverted commas and this one. So let's remove this. Okay, so we have an extensible function. Let's take one argument, that is the username. Now whatever name we are going to give this function, it is going to print that. So if I give it my name, let's give it Hamad, or you can use your name and make it a string on both sides. It will give us our name. I made a mistake. We are not supposed to write define here. It's going to run on its own. Now we will enter string, and now if I run it, it says hello Hamad. I can call it multiple times as well. Greet Hamad, or you can say greet Alex, greet Jesse, and if I print it, it says hello Hamad, hello Alex, hello Jesse. So this is how you can pass information to a function. Now let's move on to next concept. That concept is positional argument. So we can add positional arguments into our function. This is how we can do this. So positional arguments to function. This is program 3. Now this is how we can do. We're going to define describe underscore pet. Here is our first positional argument, and now there is our second positional argument, that is the pet name, right? We have named our function. Now let's create this body, and as always we are going to write what this function does. This function displays information about pets. Okay, now we are going to print slash and what this does, this is going to create a new line. If you use this before writing before printing anything, it will create a new line and print your result there. Now let's go back to printing. Print I have a plus animal underscore type plus dot. So I have animal. This is going to use this animal type and place it here, and this way we'll get the results. Now we are going to print my animal type name is plus pet underscore name dot title plus this. So now we have created a function with two positional arguments. One is going to be the animal type and the other going to be the pet name. Then I wrote what this function does, and then print I have the animal type, which is going to, let's say I have a dog. Print my animal type or my dog's name is, let's say really, that's the same name just like here, really. So let's call our function. So in order to call our function, this is what we are going to do. We are going to describe pet as called here hamster Harry. Now if I run it, it's calling it I have a hamster and my hamster's name is Harry. Let's add some space here. Good look of it. I have a hamster and my hamster's name is Harry. So this is how you can add positional arguments into your functions. Now let's move on to the next program. What does that say? Multiple function calls. So there is another thing that I'd like to mention, that is multiple calls. Again, describe pet. That is going to be dog and the dog's name is Willie. And I am giving this argument in a string format. So now if I run the program, you're going to see I have a hamster, my hamster's name is Harry. I have a dog, my dog's name is Willie. So this is how you can pass the arguments. Now let's move on to the next thing. That is order matters in positional arguments. So this is supposed to be here. So what does that means is that if I change the order of these two, let me comment this, and I type describe pet, and first I write Harry and then I tag hamster. Now I have changed the order and it is also going to print us something wrong. It's going to print us the opposite thing. I have a Harry and my Harry's name is hamster. So make sure to take care of this thing. Okay, next thing is keyword arguments. So keyword arguments makes or causes our program to get fixed. So if I take this function that I have already created, so if I have created a function named as describe pet and I give a value to my keyword such as already given hamster, and I also give value to my pet name Harry. So what this is that this will allow us to change the order of the things. So I have given this, and now if I print my program, that is describe pet, right? So we have describe pet. Now if I call it, you see it without giving the arguments, it has given us this. I have a hamster and my hamster's name is Harry, right? And now if I change the order of these, let's remove this one from here and place it here. And now if I run my program again, it's going to have the same results. I have a hamster. My hamster name is Harry. So if I'm using keyword arguments, I mean our keyword have a value, then we can change the order and it will not affect us. How? Because first I had a pet name in the ending and now I have it in the first, and it's giving us the same results. So this is how we can make use of the keyword arguments in the functions. Now let's move on to the next thing, that is the default values. What does that mean? That means that if we have a default value to one of our argument, then it will also work. So I have default. I'm going to use the same function here below. Let me remove this. So define pet name animal type dog. So animal type dog, I am changing back to dog and I'm not giving any argument to my pet name, right? Now if I run this program, and I'll have to give my pet a name, so it's Willie, right? There you can see it's working fine. I have one default value and pet name. So this is how you can make use of function as well. Another thing you should remember is that make sure that the argument with the default value is at the ending while the argument without default value is in the beginning. You can see all of these are true. This a dog named Willie, describe pet by simply giving one argument, then giving a default value, and this way applying all these things that we have tried in last 5 programs. You can use whatever it suits you. It doesn't really matter which calling style you choose. As long as your function calls produce the output you want, just use the style you find easiest to understand. So this proves our point that I have written earlier. It makes code more efficient, it makes code more maintainable, it makes code more reusable, it makes code more extensible by using functions. Now let's move on to some further things that how we can avoid the errors. So if we have a function, right? Let's take this function and I'm not giving it any argument, while in the function definition I have stated that I'm going to give you the arguments. Now if I run it, as you can see, it's giving us the error that it requires the at least one positional argument, which I am not giving it. So make sure to give it an argument such that the name we are choosing. Now it will run successfully. So try to remember this as well, that you should always run or call your function the way you have defined it, instead of leaving things empty or vice versa. Well, let's move on to the next thing, that is return values. You can also return the values using the function. How we can do this? This is how we can do this. So first of all, we are going to define a function. Define get underscore formatted underscore name. Now we are giving it two arguments, first underscore name, last underscore name. Now I have defined a function. Now let's create this body, and before that we are going to tell what this does. This returns a full name and neatly formatted. Remember, this is very useful for the person who is going to read your code in the future. So make sure to write what your function is about. So now I'm going to define these values here. So what is full name is going to equal to be, obviously is going to be the first name that we are going to give you plus a little bit space, and the next thing is going to be the last name, and then it's going to return the full name. And now we are going to use this method called that full name dot title, and that's it. Now we are going to create a variable musician that takes these values, get formatted name, and in that musician Henry, or maybe I can say CEO, and let's print our CEO. Now if I run it, it says Henry Ford. That's it. So this is how you can return values from a function using a function. Okay, the next thing shows us how we can make an argument optional. Let's do that. Run values in function program 8 and make values optional in function program. So for this we are going to need maybe the same function. So in this one we have given the two arguments. Now we are going to add another one that is going to be the middle name, the middle underscore name, and the last underscore name, right? And for making values optional in the function, now we are going to set some condition that if we have a middle name, right, then you are going to do this. Okay, our full name is going to be equal to first name space middle name again space and then plus the last underscore name, or else full name will be equal to only the first name plus space and the last name, and then we are going to return the full name dot title using the title method, and that's it. So we have defined a function. We return the full name in neatly formatted, and we have set up a condition that if middle name exists, then you are going to print this full name, and if not, then you are going to only print the first and the second name, last name. So now if I run my program by taking get formatted name and making equal to magician, or CEO is equal to first name is Henry, second name is Ford, then closing it, making this a string, and then I print the CEO, and it should give us the result. And in this way I'm going to make CEO2 or CEO underscore full, and then make get formatted name, then type here Henry, or I should call Henry Ford the second. You can just add your name here. I've just made it up Henry Ford the second. Now I'll have to print this as well. So print CEO underscore full, and now if I print this, oops, I made a mistake. Where is that mistake? If I run this, get formatted name. Okay, so I have made a mistake here. We have set up a condition for the middle name. So for the middle name, we'll have to set it equal to a, as we have set up in the function, that our middle name is going to be at the end. So here is our middle name and here is our last name. Now if I run this, it should be in the correct order, and it is Henry Ford the second. So in this way, we can make an argument optional in Python in functions. Now the next concept is returning a dictionary. So this is how you can return a dictionary. Returning a dictionary using functions. So let's create a function, define build underscore person, and now we'll give it two arguments, first underscore name, last underscore name. Now we'll define what this function does. return a dictionary. And then we're going to give it a list. Person is equal to curly brackets. Here is our key and here is its value. That is going to be our first name. In this where we're going to give the second key, that is going to be our last name. Last semicolon last underscore name. And now we're going to return this person dictionary. Let's call magician belt underscore person in Charlie Adair. And now if I print my magician dictionary, print magician, I have to run my program. Oops, we got an error. Okay, so I didn't write it correct. Now if I run this, it's giving us the same dictionary. So this is how you can return a dictionary using a function, and we can do this as many times as we want it. So here is the use of this is how we can use function and dictionaries. Now let's move on to the next concept. What does that says? Use a function with a while loop. So we have a function already, and then we are going to use the for loop for this. So let's create this function. Program 10 using while loop with a function. Okay, so for this again we are defining a function get underscore formatted underscore name, first underscore name, last underscore name. That is the body of the function. Return full name. This returns a full name that is neatly formatted as we have used just earlier. And now full name is going to be full name is equal to first name plus last underscore name. And now I will return this full name using the method title because it is going to give us what's inside. Now we will use a while loop. So we will start with while true, which means that until the below conditions are true, keep on repeating this. So it will print /n, please tell me your name, right? And then the next line is going to be the first underscore name equal to input. And now we are taking our first name as a string from the user. Put enter. Now we're going to combine this. So formatted underscore name is equal to get formatted name, and here we will call the first name and the last name, and then we will print this formatted name. For this I am going to start with the next line using \n and then hello, a string plus formatted underscore name plus exclamation mark. Now if I run this, it's asking me my first name. So my first name is Muhammad, second name is Hamad, and it has printed my name, hello Muhammad Hamad. Now it's going to keep on repeating it until we make a finite loop. So this is an infinite loop because we have no condition for breaking this. We can convert this into a finite loop, and this is how we can do this. So I am using this code again, and now what we are going to do, we're going to set up a condition right here. After the first name, we're going to that if our first name is equal to a statement such as q, and we can use here and similarly lowercase or uppercase, but I'm leaving it added, then what it's going to do, it's going to break. And now similarly I'm going to do this for the last name, that if our last name is equal to q, then break it again, is semicolon indentation, and now we are set. So we defined a function and then we told what this function is doing. This function is returning a full name. It's returning a full name. What's inside a full name? Inside a full name is the sum of the first name and the last name, and then it returns that by using full name, this one here, and using the method of title, the title method. Then what we do, then we go and create a while loop. Inside the while loop, I have set up the condition. First of all, I am taking input of the first name. Yes, the exact first name that we are using, the first name, and then I have set up a condition that if person wants to quit, they can quit by simply typing the q. Similarly, I am taking for the last name. Here is my last name, input, name, and after doing that, what I did, that I created the printing thing. When I run this program, you will see it's asking me the first name. So I type first name Alex, second time Charles, Alex Charles. Now it says hello Alex. Now what if I type Q? You can see the Q. I run it, it ends the program. Again, if I type Alex and here asking me the last name, I tap Q, it's going to end the program. So this is how you can make use of the while loop functions and taking inputs, and you can just reduce it to these two lines. Now I can print as many times I want by just using these two lines. So this is how it has simplified our code. Now let's move on to the next concept that I was teaching, and the voice got cut out again. That concept was about passing a list. So this is how you can pass a list. Alright, so now let's move on to the next concept, that is about passing a list. So what we will do, we will create a function and pass it a list, and that function will use the strings present inside that list to print what we want. So first of all, let's create a function, def greet underscore user, and inside we type names, right? And then, as we have done earlier, we will define what this function does. This function prints a simple greeting, and the next thing is, so first of all we have for, then a variable, whatever we want to name. I'll just name it as name in names, and then I'll have my print variable. So before that, I'll store the things I want to print into message, and here this is how I can do that. Taking message equal to hello, and then plus name dot title, and again plus and this sign. I'll simply use print and paste this here. So now if I call this function, but before calling that, let me revise it. I created a function called greet user, and inside I have this names, and then I simply use the for loop for name in names. So what this for loop will do, it will extract from the list and store it inside this name, and then I simply printed this name variable. I can change it to members in names, member in names, right? So here what I can do member. So now if I print this using usernames equal to Hannah, or I can type Connor or Alex. So now if I call this function greet underscore user and then give it usernames, right? This is going to print this list. Run it, and you can see it says hello Hannah, hello Connor, and hello Alex. So in this program we'll learn how we can pass list to a function. So let me rename it as passing list to a function. Now let's move on to the next concept, that is complex code to simple functions, modifying a list in functions. So our next concept is, first of all, we will be learned to modify list, then write, let me just make it bigger, write that program using functions. All right, so what we're going to do now, first of all, start with some designs that need to be printed, right? And then next what we are going to do is we will use unprinted underscore designs equal to, we have iPhone case, the next thing we have is robot pendant, the next thing that we have is dodecahedron. So this is our list, and then we are going to create another list that is empty for now, and that will have our completed models. So completed models is equal to our empty list. So this is our next step, that is stimulate printing each design, and then what we are going to do, we will move each design to completed underscore models. So for that we will use while loop, while unprinted underscore designs will be equal to, so we use the while loop, we wrote while, and then we used this list, and now what we are going to do, we are going to modify the list. Current underscore design is equal to unprinted designs dot pop. So we have modified the list and removed the items from unprinted designs and stored them into current designs. So the next thing that we are going to do, that is, we are now simulate creating a 3D print from the design. So what we will do, we will printing model and then current design. The next thing is completed models dot append current design. So what we have done right now is that we simply printed a message that we are printing this model. What is that model? That is the current design, and it should be inside our while loop. Here also, we moved our items from the current design to the completed models. That was our empty list. And finally, we are going to display the models that we have printed. So display all completed models. In order to do that, first of all, we print the message that / the following models have been printed, right? And the next thing is for completed underscore model in completed model is print completed models. Alright, so what this / does, it will create a new line. For example, if we're printing here, it will not print the next line in front of it. Instead, it will go to the next line. So first line is printed here, second line will be printed in the below. You will see when I run the program. First of all, we created the list of the unprinted designs and the second list for the completed models. That was empty. Then we started a while loop that was removing the items from the list that we have and moving it to a new list that was our third list to current design, which was actually stimulating the printing. The next thing we did, we also printed the message that these models are now starting to print, and while doing so, we moved them into our empty list. That is our first one. So we are using three lists here: a list that we are given, the second one that we created, and the third one in which we temporarily stored our items. And finally, we printed our completed model list. So if I run my program, here you can see it says printing model, this one, printing model robot pendant, printed model iPhone. And then it also said that the following models have been printed: dot Kehedron, robot pendant, and iPhone case. So we have learned to modify lists, use the for loops, and solve a real world problem. But now we can also do this using functions. So first of all, we are going to define our first function. Define print underscore models, and then first argument I'll give unprinted underscore designs, and the second argument is completed underscore models. Then I'm going to comment out what this does. This stimulates the printing of each design and also moves printed designs to completed underscore models, right? So as always, I defined my function and then I explained what it does. And again, I'm going to make use of the while loop and take the unprinted designs list. Did you notice that we are not giving the list? All right, the next thing we are going to do is we're going to use current underscore design is equal to unprinted underscore designs dot pop and this. So we are removing items from our unprinted design and moving it to current design that we did earlier. And the next thing we are going to do again, that is simulate printing 3D prints. So printing model and then plus current underscore design dot pop, right? And the next thing is completed models dot append inside current underscore design. So we just implemented the first part of our previous program inside this function. So I took two arguments, unprinted design and completed models, right? Then I explained what this function does. Then I used the while loop to remove the items from the first list and move to the third list, that is current design. And using that third list, I printed the models, and then again from this third list, I moved my items to the second list. The second list was completed models that was empty. And now this is if the first function. Now I'm going to create another function. What that will do, that will simply print the completed models. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to simply name it define show completed underscore models, and then completed underscore models. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to explain as always that what this function does. This function show printed all the models that were, and then I'm going to simply print the line. So this is basically the second part of the previous program. I'm moving the remaining half part into the second function. Print \n, the following models have been printed for completed underscore model in completed underscore models. So what I'm trying to do, I'm just simply trying to print each item one by one. And inside, I'm just simply going to type print completed model, right? So I have two functions. In the first part, I am modifying the list, and the second part, I am printing the finally modified list. So now I'm just going to call the function. For that, I'm going to give it my unprinted underscore design. That is, I'm just going to copy it from here. Yep. Uncomment, copy, comment again, and paste it here. So I have unprinted designs and the empty list. Now I'm going to call my functions. That is print underscore models, and in here unprinted designs and completed models, right? So these are the two arguments that I have passed to this one first function, and I'm going to pass argument to the second function, that is show completed models, and inside I'm going to simply pass completed models. So the pop is supposed to be here, not here. That was a mistake. All right, let's see what happens. So program is running successfully. The first part simply says printing model dot kehedron, printing model robot pendant, printing model iPhone case, and the second it says we have the following models have been printed: dot kehedron, robot pendant, and iPhone case. So we have successfully implemented modifying lists into our functions. In the first program, I showed you how we can modify lists and print them. But in second this, I made use of the functions. Now I can call these both functions as many times I want, but in case of our previous program, I was not able to do that. And even if I have to change something from this function, I can simply do this and again call it multiple times. So that leads us to the next program, that is preventing a function from modifying the list. So what this says is that we can simply give a copy of our list to a function instead of it modifying the original list. So if we don't want to change our original list, we can simply pass it the copied function. So how we can do that? So let me just copy all of this. Oops, I just need these two programs. These are the last ones. So if I copy last two functions and paste them here, what I'm going to do is I can do this. Instead of print models unprinted designs, I can add this command here. I can add this semicolon here and the square brackets. What this will do, this will create a copy and give it to these functions, and it will not modify the original one. So we will have a copied version of this list that will be modified, appended, and but the original one will remain same. So this was the next concept, prevent a function from modifying a list. Alright, so the next concept is passing an arbitrary number of arguments. So we have passed like 2 arguments before, but now we can make a function that takes arbitrary number of arguments. So in order to do that, first of all, I'm going to create define make underscore pizza, and then for this, I'm going to add static and toppings. This static is used for taking the arbitrary number of arguments. Then I'm going to write what my function does. It prints the list of toppings that are requested, right? And then I'm simply going to print those toppings, right? Now if I call my function make underscore pizza and give it a argument like pepperoni and I run it, here it is printing it. Now if I add more to this, I have pepperoni and then I have mushrooms, then green peppers, and so on. Now if I run it, Here you can see I have added static and then toppings, and now I can send one argument or multiple arguments, and I am being able to use them. So I can also use for loop in here, but that will help us in printing the topic one by one. So if I type print that I already have, then /n making a pizza with following toppings. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add the for loop. For topping in toppings is now, as again I have explained you how to use the for loop. So this is a variable that whatever I can name it, and then in toppings it is taking one by one and storing those toppings inside this variable. So I'm simply going to print this variable. So print inverted commas, this dash space. So this will simply add that dash in front of the topping and simply topping. Now if I run it, here you can see I'm being able to print them one by one, not just as I was doing earlier. So it's sort of like in a list, but the brackets are different. But here, as you can see, I'm being able to do this one by one. So this is how you can pass arbitrary number of arguments and make use of functions and for loops. All right, so the next concept is mixing positional and arbitrary arguments. We pass arbitrary number of arguments and a positional argument with it. So for this, let's say we have the exact same function, define make underscore pizza, and inside I'm passing my first argument as size, and the second argument is static toppings, right? And the next thing is we explain what this does. This summarizes the pizza that we are about to make, right? And then what we are going to print /n making a, I'm going to convert that size argument into a string, and then inch pizza. So this is just I'm filling for the string inch pizza with following topping, right? So I have wrote my print statement, and inside I'm simply going to use this for loop, right? So I have used that for loop for topping in toppings, print that topping, and similarly I'm going to call it. But now what the thing that is different is that I'll also have to pass the size. So I have so now I have my arbitrary number of arguments, but along with that I'm going to pass it the size 16, right? So I have positional argument and arbitrary number of arguments mixed together. If I run it, here you can see it says making 16-inch pizza with the following toppings. So this is how we can mix arbitrary number of arguments with the positional arguments. Now let's move on to the next concept that says using arbitrary keyword arguments. So in this example, I'll be using a dictionary that will receive the information in a dictionary and print us the value. So first of all, I'll create a function, right? Define build profile, and inside I have my first argument, that is first, then last argument, and then finally arbitrary number of argument as user underscore info, right? The next thing is I'm going to tell what this function. The next thing is I'm going to tell what this function does. Build a dictionary that contains user information, right? The next thing is we have a profile equal to an empty dictionary, then inside profile, and again I am creating a key value in my, and then again I'll create a key here. What that will do, that will take first underscore name and set it equal to first, and then again profile, here I'll use another key that will take last name. So these are equal to the arguments that I am passing to my function right here, equal to last, right? And then finally I'm going to use for loop for accessing these key and values that I have created for my dictionary. Key value in user underscore profile, user underscore info dot items, right? Key, so I have profile equal to value, then I'm simply going to return profile. So now I'm going to use user underscore profile equal to build profile, and here we have Albert Einstein. So these are the first and second arguments that we have passed it, right? Now we will start the arbitrary number of arguments. That is location, right? And that is Princeton. And the next thing is field, that is equal to physics, right? And then I'm simply going to secondly print this function, that is user underscore profile. So we created a function with 3 arguments. The third one is taking arbitrary number of arguments. Then I created a dictionary that contains the user information, and then I simply use the for loop to get information from that dictionary. And finally, I called my function. Now if I run my program, it says first name Albert, last name Einstein, location Princeton, field physics. So this is how we can make use of the arbitrary keyword arguments. Alright, so the next concept is importing the modules. So what is about is importing an entire module, right? So let's suppose we have this program that we wrote earlier, right? If I create a new file here, that is pizza.py, and inside I paste this program that I wrote earlier, my complete program in this file, but I can use it here. How? Type here import pizza and then pass it this argument. Oops, I think I need to save it as well. Run it, I save it, come back here and paste it here, and before that I'll simply type pizza dot make pizza, right? Pizza dot make underscore pizza, and now if I run it, here you can see it's running here. My program is written in this file and I am importing it in this file and then running it. So this is how you can import an entire module into your current program. The next concept is importing specific function. So for this, what I can do is I can import specific function. For doing this, I'll use from pizza import make underscore pizza, right? And now I don't have to add dot here. I can just simply copy this, paste it here and run it. Then you can see it giving us making 16-inch pizza with following toppings. So it's running again perfectly fine. So we can also import a specific function from a module. Alright, so the next concept is using as to give a function an alias. So when in the future you will be using pandas, numpy library, you will be giving them such name. So you will be using pd for pandas, np for numpy. So it is showing us that how we can give a function an alias. So from pizza import make underscore pizza as mp. That's it. And I'll simply call my function. Before that, I'll have to change mp. You can name it whatever you want, but I have just named it make pizza as the book did. So if I run it, the program is running perfectly fine. So now let's move on to the next concept, using as to give a module an alias. So we're gonna, just like with the functions, we can also modules an alias. So in order to do that, giving a module an alias, this is going to be our program 21. So what we have to do, will simply do is we will import pizza as p. That's it. And then simply I'm going to copy this command, this call to the function, and use p dot and paste it here. If I run it, it's running perfectly fine. Use as to give a module and alias. Now let's move on to the next concept, that is importing all functions in a module. So in order to do that, importing all functions in a module, that is going to our program 22. So in order to do that, just simply type from pizza import static, and this will import all the functions. So if I copy this and paste it here and run it, it will run perfectly fine. So this method is not recommended because we only have one function, right? But what if we have lots and lots of functions? Then what we are supposed to do? So for example, I have these two functions, right? If I paste them here and copy these two lines and bring them here, you will see that, save it as well. And now if I come back and run it, here you can see all of these functions are running. Here's our function 1, function 2, and function3. So you can import all functions from a module by simply typing from module name, that is pizza, import static. This static will import all the functions from the module that is we have named. In my case, it's pizza, that is similar to the book. Now let's move on to the final concept, that is styling functions. Alright, so this will help your code to look good. And one more thing I'd like to mention is that if you specify a default value for a parameter, no space should be used on the either side of the equal sign. So here you can see there is no space here while defining a default value. The same convention should be used for the keyword arguments in the function calls. So when you're writing function calls, you should not use here the space. And yeah, that's it from me. That was a long video and lots and lots of stuff about the functions. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and you can also learn from me. Just message me on my social medias, link in the description. And yeah, I'll see you in the next class.